Okay, go ahead, Celinda.
So, hello everybody. Today we are in a class of human resource. It's 3 p.m. So I'm going to present you my topic. Okay, so just want to remember about the topic. A project, it's about how Samsung Electronics can give an equal opportunity workplace. So if we want to become the director of Samsung Electronics, we have to try to get an interview with different person in the company. Firstly, the manager, then employees like men and women, and with a different person of different origin to understand if the company has an equal opportunity in the workplace and to prepare as a director. So this is a slide about the survey for the manager. And the first question we want to ask is, what have you brought to the company since you were here? Then what training and qualification will the ideal candidate have for this job? Compared to last year, how do you rate your knowledge of the company, its strategic and its ongoing accomplishment? What are you doing to hire and promote true believers in the company vision? Do employees generally exchange their view inside the company? If it's yes, we will ask how do you motivate your team? And if it's no, which issue do you think that could block them? And the sixth question is, do you believe that your company employees can greatly improve their talents and abilities? I will let Zephyr talk about the other question.
Okay, to continue the survey manager, we can ask how do you define an equal opportunity workplace? And also, how can you point out employees good quality and give them an equal opportunity in the workplace? And also, how do you manage the diversity of culture inside your company and how to integrate every worker? So can you switch the slide, please? Yes, thank you. So there is another survey. It's a survey for employees. So we can ask them, as the company provided training programs that encourage diversity, equality, and integration into your workplace. Do you feel integrated? If it's yes, we switch the question. And if it's no, we can ask what could help you to feel more integrated. We can also ask if they are happy with the direction of the company. Was it hard to get this position, and what were the steps to get this position? And does the management of this company treat all employees fairly? And also, does the management of this company, those employees in the company values others whose background, belief, and experiences are different from others? And to finish this survey, I will let Shoksa take the next.
And then we will ask, do you think that men and women are equal inside the company? And is there a career development path for all employees at this company? Do you believe the company will take appropriate action in response to incidents of discrimination and or bias? Have you felt a discrimination once since you worked? If they tell yes, we ask how do you manage, and if they say no, we'll ask next question. And what are you expecting from a direction? And that's all our questions. And it looks simple, but it's more comfortable than other questions. I think so.
So thank you for listening. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Or if you have any comments, you can talk.
I think we've already taught how in Korea, you're not going to get a lot of Korean students answering broad questions open to a whole big group. So what do you need to do, Celinda?
Maybe I have to pick one in this class and ask some question.
Great. So how about you do that, please?
So, Hiwon-chu?
Yes.
So, what do you think about all these questions? How could we change this question? How could we progress? How could we make the surveys better?
To progress something.
Sorry?
Internationally, HR, you should use many words. Just using one or two words. I think, was it Bastian last class that learned using one word, yes, no, to prove something? People are not going to understand. Please clarify.
I had to repeat?
Nobody
say that.
understands what you said.
Yeah, can you say that again?
Oh, okay. Okay, so what do you think about the survey?
Yeah. Actually, I just first of all, I just want to say it's quite a well organized, and I can understood well since you present, I think, it's so clearly. So I just want to say it's so great for me.
Thank you.
You've said some good things. Can you do something to make more of an impact on the world, Hee-Wan-cho? Tell them what could possibly change and give them a grade. If anybody is just going to say good job without showing them how to change, I'm going to jump on you to give a detailed mark and explain it. So you can start, Hee-Wan-cho.
Can I think a little bit more?
You have 5 seconds before we go to the next person. Trying to push you. I know you might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's random. Everyone in class needs to use the class to learn. You're not here just to chit chat. You're here to push yourself to learn something new. So practice. Tell them that, I don't know, it's nice slide color, but in Korea, it's better to have a different color. Anything. Talk about pink elephants. I don't care. Just practice saying anything. So eventually, it's going to be easier for you.
I think if you guys chose some topic or purpose in the slide, it could be more easier to understand, not just saying something. So
We have to show what? Sorry.
I think it would be good for showing your topic or purpose in the slide. So it would be more easier to understand, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one question. Can I?
Yes.
How are you going to share your survey?
We can share it on maybe social media to have a lot of audience, and maybe also LinkedIn or on with emailing. We have a lot of possibility to share this survey.
Okay, thanks.
I got one question and few recommendations too. Maybe, yeah. I don't know if I missed it or you said it. I don't actually even know what was the topic about, but for the survey, maybe you could use scale questions too, like we talked about it before. Our presentation was missing it too. And maybe you could also put at the end, like, what are you trying to get by asking those questions? like what is the outcome for you? What are you trying to find out? Like,
Okay. It's true that we don't say our subject before our topic before to explain our survey, but our topic was how can let me 2 seconds it how Samsung Electronic Korea can give an equal opportunity workplace. So our survey just is around this topic.
And
Okay.
it's also to prepare because we want to be we choose to be a director of Samsung Electronic. So these surveys could help us to prepare to know more about the company, about the employees' feeling, and we are working on the equal opportunities. So that's why all the questions turn around that.
That last statement that you just said, I love the most, everything we've said today. I hope everybody heard what she just said. You're supposed to be doing something. Anything you do ever in life is supposed to be for a reason. Don't just do it because some crazy old man told you to for a class assignment. You, I understand, Celinda, and probably people in your group want to work with Samsung. And you want to learn what are better ways to develop equal opportunity workplaces in Korea. Great. So what? How are you going to do it? I think Andre, he started to talk about what is your target, and you just said your target, I guess, is to survey Samsung, but there are hundreds of millions of people there. Do you have? It's a great start. You don't have to do more. I am going to be generous with your marks, but we're not here just to get marks. We're here to learn and develop. And so even better would be to identify maybe the top half dozen people that you think are perfect to target. And so who would those people be? Is it a director of HR? Is it a director of, I don't know, equal opportunity workforce? There is a Samsung global director of diversity and inclusion and equal opportunity. But that lady I've talked to already, and as far as I understand, and I probably am wrong, so I'll start by saying that so I don't get charged with defamation. I think she's only taking care of her area alone and not dealing very much with other countries, nor Korea, nor Samsung globally. So it's not global equal opportunity, it's just Korea. You said your title is How Samsung Can Give Equal Opportunity Workplace. I haven't heard if you're talking about just inside Korea versus just inside United States. And I could introduce you to two people, like I know the people managing both, but both of them are looking at completely different areas. So those are just two examples. Paul Hussey, for example, is supposedly the global HR manager for Samsung Electronics. He is looking for something different than the person in New York and California. Is there somebody else? So plan maybe the top 6 people, 5 or 6 people you really think you want to be around. You want to work with them. They can help you. And then the next question, who else is in your group? Shokabos.
Yes.
If I assume you want to work for Samsung for equal opportunity work environment, how are you going to get that job? How are you going to expand from class to get that job? Hopefully you can use this class activity somehow. So can you guess and then ask other people, like Jung-ho, he has his hand up, but can you, as a member of your team, talk about how your team can do this career development planning, which is our weekly topic, using just this one simple class activity today to get your dream? How will you contact them? Who will you contact? How will you start? Any of that. If you don't know, guess. Talk about purple elephants. And then give the hard question to somebody else. The best HR
Sure.
people and the best students in this class the best HR workers should not only know themselves and their own personality, their own characteristics, their own communication style, their own learning style, but they should know the MBTI, the personality style, the learning style, the abilities of the boss or the president or the CEO or maybe the professor if you think that's important. But then seriously, you should try to know the abilities of everyone around you. What is Lucas's unique abilities and how is Lucas's abilities different than Pia's abilities? How is his ability different than Guillaume Lecar's abilities? And so because Lucas is good at this, maybe you survey him and you ask him something that he's good at and then thank him because he will, if you do it wisely, you're giving him a compliment in front of everyone and you're basically hiring him for free to help you be better. And then you do the same thing with Guillaume Lecar. You know what his personality is, you know what his abilities are, and you ask him a specific question of how you can change and be better going forward. Again, you don't have to do this. I don't want to torture any students, but that's the ultimate goal of good HR management. So, sorry, I talked too much. I'll shut up now. Who is talking? Is it Chicago's talking now? Were you going to try to answer that question? And then Jungo?
Actually, I will do by emailing or meet important people in Samsung Enterprise and starting asking with simple questions and start how to get this job.
And then you can stop talking if you want. Okay. If you're finished, it's up to your group if you want to ask for marks or any other comments. Otherwise, I do see Jung Moon has his hand up. He wants to.
Yeah, he can ask a question if he want. Jung.
Yeah, what I was trying to say was pretty related to what our professor said. Since your topic is specifically talking about the Samsung Electronics, if you're going to do the survey on some part on some specific department, I thought that the result of the survey can be biased because they have hundreds of different departments. They have all departments have a different working environment. So I just thought the result of the survey can be biased to the topic of your project. And also I was just curious that I was also just worried because maybe the people who conduct survey, they might be worried to answer honestly because they might think if I reply this survey honestly, I might have minus points in the future because I put some negative informations on the survey to defame our department. So I just thought that is there any way that you can make them to be honest on the survey?
Okay,
You're asking that to the group? Go ahead.
I think yes, I understand what you say, but we are never at 100% sure that people are going to be honest. So there is a little gap between what they are going to say and the reality. So we need to take it and make our survey with that.
May I
Oh.
suggest something?
Please. Otherwise, I'm about to start taking over again.
Yeah. If you ask the employees just anonymously, you don't need to worry about them getting minus points.
Oh, I wish that were true. I wish everybody appreciated the truth, but you also know that the truth hurts, right? Some people might not like the truth. But you're right. I would say a better thing, rather than just say, I am a student and I'm learning about you, that is the truth. But a lot of business people, especially in East Asia, they're going to close the door on you unless they're your alumni, because the image of students in Korea is you're young and inexperienced. Maybe in other countries you have lots of work experience and a family and responsibilities, but in Korea, usually that it's a very low level of experience. So working people usually only talk to other people at the same level, and students are not at that level. So that style of truth is one thing. And then the simple idea, like saying, you, Mr. Coke, you are more popular than Mr. Pepsi Cola, but Mr. Pepsi Cola has better vitamins or better taste than you, and you should copy more about him. That is the truth, but it could send you to jail in Korea. So what I would suggest more is the idea of plan for your long term, that idea of whatever is your long-term goals. And if you want to work for Samsung, for example, start finding some perfect research papers that will help those top 6 targeted people you really want to work for. Find some valuable research paper that would help them already, and you make it better. And then you find these things like Harvard Business Review reports. And if they have an interest in Harvard Business Review, maybe you can download an extra 5 or 10 or 25 articles just from a Harvard Business Review, just because it might impress that target person. And you can share part of that to these other people. So sharing this world's best information should help. Does that help answer a little bit? The other thing I wanted to say, I think I'm repeating myself there, is this
Yes,
paper.
Professor, can I add something?
Sure.
They said that people are more likely to not to be honest, but I think they're not right, because if you know the doing a survey and taking what you need, kind of information is pretty easy, because when you give like a question like, do you think Samsung is best place for equal opportunities, or like, it surely sounds like negative, but if you ask like, uh, would you give some advices to improve the current condition of equal opportunities in Samsung, and they say yes, it will show that there is not much, there is much to be improved, and they are not perfect. So making question is a big part, I think.
Awesome, Uzbek. Very, very good notes. Maybe you are reading these notes. Nobody has to go through all of these notes, but here is 9 pages of lots of extra information. And just the highlighted information is best. How about Tobias, could you start just reading this first little bit in gold, and then after, maybe Pia, you can read the next little bit in gold. Just read it out loud to the class.
Sure, I can do that. The first part is, if you can meet people and develop relationships in the organization without bothering anyone, perfect. Do not bother anyone. Be prepared. Learn from friends and family first, then interact in books or other contacts. Then learn from people in the organization. Contact senior people in the company only after you tried all the other learning resources first. Do not make anyone look bad. Do not complain, and compliment people a lot. I envy you being able to work here. It's a dream job for many, many people. Congratulations. We talk about you a lot and hope to develop our relationship. Our management researchers and experts may be interested in helping you do market and management research and develop projects. I'm excited to meet you. So those are some of the compliments you can make. Yeah.
Great. And not just the compliments, when you're interacting with people. And make sure you understand you can start with this and then start saying, I see that you went to Harvard or you're interested in Harvard. Here is a Harvard article. It's worth $50 and it says this. Here is another Harvard article. It says this. Those two things alone should attract their attention. So Pia, could you go up to the next part?
Yes. Record many names, emails, and phone numbers. You need the names and quotes from these people for references for your paper. You need to quote people in your paper. The more people you quote wisely, the better your grade and the better a chance of obtaining a job in the future. Send thank you notes. Develop relationships for the future. Guangxi.
Okay, I wrote this file over 10 years ago. It's a decade old. If I revise it, I would say you do not have to quote people for your class project or for your surveying or for your research. Why I was saying quote people was actually for a different East Asian management class that was focused on just pure success, pure development. If you go and target somebody specifically and ask to take their photo, ask to take a quote from them, that basically, what's the polite way to say you're kissing their butt? You're making them feel good. And if you make them feel good, then they will feel good with you and maybe be more interested in maintaining a relationship with you or helping you. So you don't have to quote people. Some people might not want to be quoted. But the idea is learn HR, learn about that person before you go there. If you have a job interview, you should know as much about the company as you can before you go to the job interview. Before you survey a top executive, know as much about that person as you can before you introduce yourself. And then make sure you try to start adding value to them. Don't waste the time. So any volunteers to read this, the last bit of gold? Volunteers going once?
I can read it.
Yeah.
Great, Lucas, go ahead.
Okay. Know about the organization and person you're interviewing before you start. Learn from family and friends, contacts first. After you ask personal contacts will help interview people that are at the beginning or bottom of the organization. Parking lot managers, front door men, women, secretaries, office manager, etc. After you learn a little info, develop it and use it when interviewing more senior level people.
Okay, there's one thing I missed when I wrote this over 10 years ago. Hopefully you guys all know that one thing that should be included here is after you start with your classmates and then students around you and family for sure, you should definitely be trying to use the alumni, especially in China, Japan, or Korea, where those alumni have to generally help you. So this goes on. It talks about many different things, possible survey questions, what you can say, what you shouldn't say. Don't talk too much. Don't copy what I'm doing. Try to get them to talk as much as possible. Usually when people talk lots, they're happier. And so they may mistake the fact that they're talking a lot and they're happy with you being good and just like you just because they're talking a lot. So there's lots of interview points and suggestions here, jokes that you might be able to use. There's questions that you can use. This is the values survey that a very famous international management person used, Hofstede used for surveying how to interact and manage many different people. Anyway, that's about it. Any questions about this before we go back and talk about the next group presenting? While we're waiting, I hope you guys see that this, I think this is your presentation that you were presenting, which is okay to start, but overall, even if this presentation was gold and full of diamonds and very valuable, when you're presenting, again, look at that bigger picture. Nobody knows how to give you $1 million. Nobody knows how to pay you in gold for your valuable information. So have contacts here, and just saying human resource management, I don't think that's going to attract anybody to pick up that file and read it. So the title of How Samsung Electronics Can Give Equal Opportunity Workplace, and then pick where, in Korea or globally, that would attract a lot more people's attention than just HRM. So be aware that what you know is not really important. It's what the other people know, what the managers in the company or what the workers in the company are going to understand from that. And since you're only using pictures for a lot, some other people might not understand what you're trying to say. What is the value you're giving to them?
We use picture on this PowerPoint because it's to lead our oral. When we talk, we don't put text on PowerPoint. We just talk and.
Okay, do you understand what I just said though?
Yeah, I understand.
And how does that relate, what I said relate to you posting this on YouTube and posting this in Facebook?
Yeah, if I post my PowerPoint on YouTube or Facebook, they will understand nothing.
Or globally. I guess you're not a native Korean speaker. It sounds like you have a French accent. And so people with a French accent and speaking English may understand you very well, but there's billions of people in the world that might not understand, English, French, or Korean. But if you have writing, it's much easier for them to follow you.
Yeah, but when we create this PowerPoint, we made it because we were thinking that we will make an oral presentation for you, only for your classes, not for all YouTube and Facebook people.
Right. My class is teaching international human resource management, right? And that means if you only make something for me, you're going to be failing.
Yeah, but I will. No, I know, but before I was not knowing.
Good, thanks. And everything, like nobody loses marks. There's no reducing marks. It's just the more you do, the more you try, the more marks you get. The more you ask other people how to develop. So, for example, what you are trying to tell me is good. It's very good. I already said I give you very generous marks. But maybe if I look at this next year or 5 years later, I'm not going to remember what you talked about. If you do have notes there, even you guys are aware of the notes file at the bottom, right? You can put notes in the bottom.
Okay.
If you're speaking notes there would be good. But more importantly, when anybody is giving the presentation, that idea that you understand and you think another person understands is a myth. A lot of people, especially me, will misunderstand what is your point. Okay. So while you say it, great, you're saying it, great. But if you use the ESL, say these details on a second line, say them again, write it. You don't have to read it word for word. That's usually bad. But while you're saying it, if the listener or the target audience can also read something, usually their brain works faster than people just speaking. It makes them understand your point better. So, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying these are suggestions, and probably I'm wrong, but it's my suggestion for you guys. And you do have references here, and I personally love these references. There are articles here, you have reviews, you have citations. These things are great. But let's go back to the vice president of Samsung now. Would the vice president of Samsung appreciate this? Or even the CEO of Samsung? Would they understand it? I do. I love it. But I'm not important, right? You should. And the whole idea of the review, it's not actually the review. This is the journal, Asia Pacific Business Review. That is a magazine. It's a journal. Why would the CEO care?
Okay, I understand.
So everything you do with HR management, everything you do, in my opinion, in life, you should understand your biggest obstacle is your own mind. It's my mind, your mind. Try to do things that are for somebody else first, and then try to make it mutually beneficial. So check the other person understands. I understand, but I'm not important. With that said, thank you very much, guys. I'm going to be very generous with your grade again. Was there another group? Sorry, was it Jungo Moon? Did you say that you wanted to say something? No?
We have two more groups that want to present. So I think next is Lucas group.
Yes, right.
Sharing your space, please.
Can I?
Yes, we can see you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are group 4, and our group members are Timo, Guillem, Lucas, Chakri, and me, Hewan. And we are going to present about human resource management in the COVID-19 era. Next, yeah. This is our table of contents. First is about our topic, and second is our purpose, and third is to whom to contact and how to get. And fourth, survey questions, and last one is about the reason why we chose these questions. Next slide, please. And before we start our main purpose of today's presentation, I'm gonna tell you again what our topic is. Our team's topic is what are the main factors that can increase employees' loyalty in a virtual working environment, especially in the COVID-19. Next slide, please. Yes. As we saw in the table of contents, what our team would like to share to the world today, which is our purpose, is to tell how we want to do our survey and what we want to achieve, especially to whom we want to survey and how to get in contact with, and which question we want to ask and why we chose these questions. Next slide, please. And next, who are we gonna contact and how? And we are gonna get in contact with Glencore, which is one of the biggest trading company in the world. And the reason why we chose this trading company is the company actually I'd like to work for in the future. Thankfully, the other members also agreed to do what I want. So, and since Glencore is one of the successful trading companies, we thought we could get a lot of information about it. So we are gonna contact 2 employees and human resource management manager working in Glencore right now. So, and also we are gonna use LinkedIn or email posted in their website to get in contact with them. And we're gonna tell them first that the survey will be anonymous except for gender and age. Since if it's not anonymous, we thought it might be hard to say their opinions honestly. And next presenter, Lucas, will continue.
We have prepared some questions for employees. I just will really quickly read them out. So, do you only work for one company or more? Because it's in the right remotely workable area that's possible to work not only for one company, as we learned already here in this course. Then, how often did you switch companies in the last 5 years? What are 3 things in your company that keep you motivated? Do you like telework, or do you want to go back to work at the company building after COVID-19? And if you should change anything in your company to increase your motivation and loyalty, what would it be and why? Did your company provide you with equipment for your telework? And do you think your workload stress has increased since you work from home? Also, are you able to differentiate between work and free time while you're working remotely? Did you notice any depressive behavior like feeling of loneliness or something like that since you work remotely? And do you think virtual working environments will be continued by your companies after the COVID-19 is under control? Have you had thoughts of changing your job or company during COVID-19 because of health mental crisis? These are questions we would like to ask employees. And questions we want to ask to human resource manager. And do you think that the feeling of loneliness perceived during remote work can be a break on the loyalty of an employee? Do you think there is a corresponding relationship between employees' loyalty and virtual working environment? If so, why? What are the main obstacles for employees in a virtual working environment? What is the advantage, disadvantage of managing employees in a virtual environment? Do you think virtual working environment will be continued by many companies after COVID-19? And what are the reasons for that? What are the team building exercises? Did you adapt them to the COVID-19 or to a remote work situation? Do you have any rewards like a 30-month salary to motivate your employees? If yes, have the rewards changed since COVID-19 or remote work? Do you think that an employee you hired remotely is able to identify himself with the company as well as an employee who got hired directly in the company building? Now we'll go on with the intention behind our questions. As you know, our topic is to increase loyalty. So we want to get to know, to identify the problems employees have, which can lead to a loyalty loss. We also want to ask the employees which changes have to occur to overcome these problems. So what can the company, what do the employee think would be good to get a higher loyalty, like they will develop a higher loyalty. We also want to identify, want to know if the human resource manager notice problem with if there are problems with loyalty and which steps they take to prevent them. Which steps do human resource manager to keep their remotely working employees in the company. So that's all it. Thank you for your attention. And before I ask people what they think about our presentation, I wanted just to start and say that I only took notes from the team before, because, for example, that we should, we decided to concentrate on one company, but we should definitely say that it's in Asia, in Korea, and which department we want to focus on. I think a lot of things already have been talked before, or discussed before, and I don't want to take too much time because another group wants to present. So the first thing I ask to the European or to the Western people, are there any questions?
Not really a question of me, but I think your presentation was very clear, and I think what your presentation showed was that what we were discussing before. I think if you saw your presentation and you didn't know anything about that before, you were guided very clearly through it, and I think everything got very clear and everything was written down that you need to know. So I like that idea of presenting the work.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have also a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please show me your fifth question, please?
Which question?
Fifth.
Sure, it's good. My computer doesn't want to. And by employees or which question?
Yeah, fifth.
Fifth in the human resource management?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No. Sorry, question for. And I don't remember exactly, but there was a question, and I think most of the candidates who answer this question will answer that I will not leave if my company gives me more money or more salary. And I think your paper would end with one sentence like, if you want loyalty from your workers, just increase salary. I wanted to see something like what's the most attractive thing for you as a worker in companies after salary or after money? What is your interest and what is your hobby like, and their link with loyalty in the company?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we talked about this before, but like we also read about researchers, and money isn't most of the time like it is definitely a motivator, but it isn't like the most or the best motivator you can have. So I think there will be a lot of people who will answer stuff. Surely a lot of people answer if they have more money, they will be happy. But there are a lot of life, work balance things, company cars, other things they would like to have or which keep them motivated. For example, daycare for children, if this is a possibility, and stuff like this is getting more and more important. So yeah, but it's a thank you. It's a question we can definitely improve or yeah, develop.
Lucas, what you were just saying was very valuable. I hope everyone in the class was really listening to that. A lot of young people, maybe especially in East Asia, they are focused on taking a job for high pay. And I believe what Lucas just said was that a lot of people don't really care about money, and that is true. That is what research says. Most of the world, apart from the people that are starving, if you have a decent job with adequate pay, they're not going to stay just if you give them a little bit more money. For example, me, I've left other jobs that pay very well for other reasons, and I've taken jobs that pay very low for certain reasons. Some of the best staff I've ever hired, whether it's for corporate industries or for personal businesses, those best staff had a very hard time identifying how much money they wanted because they were not focused on money at all, but they were the best at those jobs. So as you said, some people want more vacation, or some people want more freedom, or more power, or more of an ability to travel, or impact the world, or daycare, or housing support. Everyone is different, and HR people should be knowing that. If you assume everybody's just going to work for paying more, one of the top jobs I brag about on my resume, but I'm happy to have left, they offered me $1 million stock options. And they offered many of the other executives $1 million stock options. And every single person that I worked with, except the president, left. They were not happy with that work environment. And so money is clearly not burnt. Sorry, I'm talking too much. I hope that helped. Thank you very much for talking about that. Who's the next group that wanted to talk?
Can I ask you one question before? It's not regarding the presentation. I want to ask you, what was your motivation to teach at Keimyung University, if it's not about the pay?
I was the vice president of a university. That's different. Maybe we should talk about that after class. I don't want to run out of time with the other group going to present. There is another group that wants to present, right?
Yes, that would be us. I think Bastian will share the screen. Bastian?
Yeah, I'm here. Just give me 1 minute.
While you're getting ready, Andre, I was the vice president of a university in Vietnam, and I was helping the university grow internationally, not with just academics, but with international operations. And Vietnam closed, so international activities basically stopped. So I was able to get out of the country to come here for a visit, and I wasn't allowed back into Vietnam because they closed the border.
That's the whole story.
There's much more to it, but that's a big part.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, has the class frozen? Can we get somebody to start talking?
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Toby? Or
If you guys don't
Okay.
want to talk, that's okay.
no, it's
can-
good. It's good. It's good. I can jump in. I can. So.
Tobias?
All right.
Start, team.
So let's start with the first. Finally, let's start with the first slide. So, to remind you again, our topic is all about how can green human resource management influence employees' pro-environmental behaviors. And therefore, we came up with the surveys plan as required. So what we are going to show you is the survey itself, which a couple of questions we came up with. Then afterwards, what do we expect from our findings? What is our target group, who we're aiming for, and what in particular are our next steps. So you can see our little survey targeting to managers. And first of them is what is your understanding of green HR? Then have you already implemented processes for green HRM? If not, then say so, why that is the case. Third of all, what steps regarding HRM did you already take? And which of them were the most promising ones? And we're asking therefore for specific examples. Do you notice a measurable effect in green decision making since implementing green HRM practices? If yes, what, where, and how? So we are hoping to get the most out of that question with what, where, and how, more in detail. Then how good are green HRM actions and activities accepted by your employees? The sixth question is, what problems regarding green HRM need to be fixed? And last one is, what do you think are important next steps for developing green HRM? So some of our questions are more open, and we intended them to let them open, so we have like a qualitative resume, and a couple other questions are scalable. So we ask about to rate it in between a range of 0 or 5, and afterwards we can scale the questions and come up with a diagram, for example. Yeah, and here you can see our expectations. So it's all about how managers and employees perceive green human resource management, as well as possible differences and problems of accepting green HRM by managers and employees, followed by the possible link between green HRM and employees' behavior, and how green HRM affects companies financially, and also what has been done and will be done in the future in a company to implement green HRM.
Yeah,
we are trying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. You can. What we were trying, or who we are trying to reach, is the target group are those people from for whom the study might be interesting. So we want to interview those people who might be interested in the results of the study, so that they really care about what they answer. And those would be like HR managers in big tech companies, and we want to focus on Korea. And those would also be executives for environmental sustainability. And if we can get some, we want to take also some impressions from employees, and that's not really for like statistical stuff or for our research, but more for like our personal interests and for interest on what we should focus or on what we should focus more in the talks with the executives. Yeah, and we want to target especially manufacturing businesses because they have like the highest impact on the environment. Producing companies are like very, or can be very dirty, so that's why we want to target them. And on our next slide, we present the next steps, and those would be searching on LinkedIn for alumni in those big companies that were listed on the previous slide, and we want to search for those alumni to get some impressions and to direct us to the right executives, because I don't think that we will get contacts of the executives right over LinkedIn. I don't think that they will answer us straight ahead. I mean, we could try that, but I think this would be very difficult, and this one would be the easier way. And then we want to search on company websites for contact details, because sometimes, especially in HR or in sustainability management, those are topics very important for companies. So the probability to reach someone with the concrete email address of someone in this department would be very, very high, and we want to try that too. Yeah. So in the end, do you have any feedback before we try and figure out one of you to tell us especially what you think about our presentation?
Yeah, I think you also made clear like who you want to contact them, how you want to contact them. Also, like your what you want to find is really clear. I don't know if you have some like similar questions, and I don't know if you have enough questions. But I think a too long survey wouldn't be that great as well. I think, yeah. So overall, it was really clear. I understand what you want to achieve. I think it's good that you concentrate on manufacturing companies, because I think there to establish a mindset of green human resource or organic green thinking is very good. So overall, I don't have really a question.
Thanks.
Interesting. We've had 3 groups talking, but I haven't heard anybody actually look for marks. The last group was talking about money. Some people are interested in money. I guess in this class, everybody just loves listening to our class or the topic. You're not interested in grades. Get grades! Try to get into the details. If you're just focused on being polite, you might be polite, but the world does not, unfortunately, reward people just for being polite. Add value. If you want points, if you want a grade, ask for it. Find out how you can improve, because there's several presentations. The final one in week 12 or week 13 or week 14, use this to grow. And when you're targeting these people, some of them may want a presentation. Are you prepared to give a good presentation to those people? Are you ready for me to start teaching the class again? Or did you guys want more feedback?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll ask Matthias again if you can specify that for grade, what you just said us. So maybe you can set a grade for us.
I'm not a big fan of giving grades to fellow students. The point is that I don't really have a question. So I only don't know if I think you have to specify more your survey question, because you told us that you want to give some the questions like a range, from say, okay, it's very good or it's very bad. I think you have to further develop your questions. But everything you wanted to say, I know what you're talking about. I know briefly which questions you want to ask. I know who you want to ask, and I know what you want for results. So I think if I have to grade, I think today we have 10 points. It would be 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? We have just less than 5 minutes left in class. I would like to put you guys into groups of 2 and just exchange your resume or your life plans. So is there anybody that has a problem with that? If you can't do that, I'll put you in slightly larger groups. Going once.
Can I, because I have another class I have to run right now, so I cannot really choose the partner. Can I do it with Pia? Because I already have her contact information since we work on the project.
You guys all should be doing this and presenting this actually in class. And since I haven't seen people sharing these details in class, I'm using this to just start. So yes, regardless of what happens now, keep doing it. Develop your MBTI, develop your resume, develop and get a list of ideal job ads. Why? So you can identify what are the key common words and what are the key common skills your ideal job ad is looking for, and make sure you're developing those for yourself. And ultimately, start planning your career development. Make sure you guys have that stuff ready. Let me just go back and show you again the details that we're talking about. Make sure you're developing this. How are you going to get to your ideal job or your ideal goal in 20 years? Whatever it is, if this is 20 years later, in 10 years, in half of that time, you should have half of that foundation developed. And then in half of that, in 5 years, you should have half of that foundation developed. And then in 2 years, in 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, work backwards is usually easier than just starting from scratch. It's the same thing with research. Some of the world's best research papers start from scratch, but those are done by people that have extensive training on how to ask questions, how to do the surveying, how to do the methodology. The easiest, fastest way for you guys is just follow what is your end result, what is a responsible, a respected, good result that you want to be able to make, and make modifications so you have your own. Does anybody have some type of career plan that they might be able to talk about since we're almost at the end of class? Going once.
I can briefly talk about my plan.
Great.
Going further. So I have to specify, like, I'm an industrial engineer and management. So I'm for my major. So I don't personally want to work in management. I want to work in development. I already had a job interview last week, and I have interested for my next semester in a like additive manufacturing 3D printing company in the department of developing.
Okay, you're talking about something that might be, I think you said next week. Can you talk to us about what might be your plan for 20 years later?
20 years is hard to say. 20 years is probably a family and a good job. But I would say I can talk about my next 5 years. I want to do a master in additive manufacturing. I want to do it probably in Korea. And I want to do it in combination with a company. Like I work for a company and do my master at the same time. That's my plan for at least the next 5 years.
So we are basically finished class. I'm going to take that one example. One student, he started talking about what he wants to do. He's trying to work with companies now. But what I just heard is 5 years later or 10 years later, when he wants to do his graduate work, he also said in Korea, what I hear is everything he should be doing now should be work, not for me, but from for a graduate professor. Find some graduate professor in a graduate school that you love, you want to learn from, he has or she has great connections, and make our class project for that person. Make a paper for that person. Start expanding that person's research. That type of collaboration will definitely help you much more. With that said, we are out of time. I really appreciate what you were just saying. That was Lucas Matthias. I think you should definitely talk to the TAs and get an extra point or 2 extra points for starting to talk about that. Try to get other people in class doing the same. Any other questions, class?